Hey guys, today I'm going to be doing a movie review on Downton Abbey, the grand finale. So, before I head into my thoughts and feelings on this very last Downton Abbey movie, I'm just going to have some spoilers in this video. This is the third and final movie of something that was previously a TV series, So, yeah, I'm just going to speak freely about this final movie and the things that I liked about it. So yeah, let's get going. So the IMDb plot synopsis for this final movie: when Mary finds herself in a public scandal and the family faces financial trouble, the household grapples with the threat of social disgrace. The Crawleys must embrace change, with the next generation leading Downton Abbey into the future. So, where we're at the start of this movie, we are, I think it's like right at 1930. Yeah, the show started in 1912, so we've gone through a nice little chunk of time with this family and all their drama and all their scandals. And I do think this was a nice wrap-up to this world and to these characters. I wouldn't say this is like my favorite out of the movies. Yeah, obviously I prefer the TV show. I really love the TV show because, the TV show, you're able to really sit with plots and characters for a long time. And yeah, these movies, kind of the one thing I've always had an issue with these movies is because the cast of Downton Abbey is so freaking large. It's so large, and everybody kind of has their quick moments to shine, because some characters will be shown more than others, and yeah, some are kind of neglected and they'll kind of have their few moments, and that's it. That's really kind of my one complaint probably with this movie, is just such a really large cast, and it does its best to kind of finalize certain things. But in conclusion, I do think this was a nice end to this franchise, if you will. A nice emotional goodbye that felt complete in its own way. And it sits right at about 2 hours. I kind of wish maybe this movie was like given an additional 30 minutes. I don't know if that would have made it feel too long. I'm not sure, but anything to just kind of be with these characters a little bit longer. And really, what this entire movie is about in some ways is, because it's all about change, the way the Crawleys live, the fact that they have like household staff and whatnot, this is all a bygone era, and that era is kind of slipping away little by little. And yeah, like World War One was already kind of causing that rift and change and the social structure of everything. And yeah, we have like World War Two on the horizon, obviously, and that's really going to cause another big huge rift and shift within societal norms. So yeah, this movie, I think the big theme of the whole movie is definitely all about change and the Crawleys realizing they need to move along with the times. Like some of them, obviously, like Robert being really, just because I think Robert, he's very conservative in his beliefs and his stance on things, and he likes things to be the way that they are, and he thinks that they should always be the way that they are. So it takes a lot of kind of maneuvering to get Robert to kind of open up and change and realize that he needs to change too with the changing times. Whereas you have like Lady Mary, for instance, and Edith, and they're much more adaptable. They're much more adaptable. They realize things are moving around them. Yeah, like even at one point, because several of the household staff are kind of moving on or retiring. Like Carson is retiring here at the end of the movie, and Mrs. Patmore is retiring, and like these other generations are now kind of going to be in charge. Like Andy is going to be taking Carson's role, and Daisy's going to be taking Mrs. Patmore's role. It's just the nature of how things have to move along with how they do things. And it's even brought up at one point. The household staff are kind of just discussing things, and because they know that once Mary kind of becomes in charge of Downton Abbey, that Mary really wants to make some changes, and she wants to kind of minimize the staff. She's going to have to let some of them go and just have a smaller staff than what they usually have. Gone are the days when you would have like a bunch of footmen, a bunch of maids. We've seen that on the show, you know, like season 1, for instance. There's a ton of like footmen, there's a ton of maids, you know, there's a ton of like kitchen staff, and each season of the show, and then kind of through these movies as well, you know, seeing the staff really dwindling, and like Mary and Edith and Cora, you know, it's like they all used to have their own maids, but they all just share a maid now, you know, and they don't have like a million footmen serving them, you know, they just have a couple at this point, because the running of these big huge grand estates, it's a lot, you know. You have to have a staff for these places to maintain them and keep up the upkeep of them, and yeah, the finances really just going crazy. And yeah, that's a big thing. I think these past couple movies have really been kind of getting into that Downton Abbey, it's becoming very, very expensive, the upkeep, and yeah, their finances, you know, they have a lot of financial issues, and that really gets explored here in this particular movie. And also kind of going into this whole bygone era sort of thing, you know, the big scandal involving Lady Mary is because her and Henry got a divorce. And there's still this societal pressure that women can't get a divorce, and if you do, you're going to be shunned and ousted from good society. So Mary is having to face that, and of course Cora and Robert are upset about her having to go through that. It seems unfair and unjust. And yeah, Mary's like, yeah, you know, this is just what we do in our society, you know, and I'm just going to have to suffer the consequences. And speaking of Lady Mary's divorce, you guys, I'm so mad at Matthew Good. I'm going to blame this whole plot on how upset I am with Matthew Good, because Matthew Good, he started in that final season of Downton Abbey, and then he was in movie 1 and 2, but very quick and very brief. So then, yeah, I saw that movie 3, Matthew Good was not going to be in it, and yeah, here, lo and behold, here's this whole divorce scandal, and I'm so upset with Matthew Good, because I really liked Henry and Mary together. I think they just made a really great team together, and I'm upset because Matthew Good, the man is always constantly working. That's why these movies, he's not in them very much, and why he's not even in this third one, you know, because Matthew Good, he is constantly working and constantly doing something. So I'm upset with him for being a busy man. That now Mary had to suffer through a divorce. Then again, maybe a divorce was always going to be on the horizon with these two, because the show has always made very clear that, you know, Mary's one and only true love was Matthew, you know, and no man was ever really going to beat that out. So maybe a divorce is always going to be on the horizon, and Mary's just going to live out her days just a happily single woman, you know, having good memories of Matthew. I don't know. So yeah, Mary's divorce scandal is one of the big main plot points. Yeah, another big plot point to this movie, their uncle, played by Paul Giamatti, he comes to Downton Abbey. Yeah, he's Cora's brother. He comes with his financial advisor, and yeah, they've lost a ton of money. They've lost a ton of money. Some of that money, which was supposed to kind of go to Downton Abbey as well. So there's all of that drama going on. And yeah, quickly discovering that the financial advisor to their uncle is a con man, which I was a little upset about that, because him and Mary had a quite a bit of chemistry early on. Lord, with poor Anna, when she stumbles across all that mess. Oh Lord, she was funny. But yeah, I liked all that, and then yeah, to discover that the man is a con man. No, why? And then yeah, the third big plot point of the movie is definitely this organization of the annual county fair, and that's how they wrap like Carson and Daisy into that whole thing. And yeah, this small-minded man who's trying to keep things normal. Once again, this whole movie is about change, and even the local county fair needs to kind of grow and change with the times, and Daisy is kind of that person who sees the direction things should go in, you know? So I even like that whole plot. And you guys, can we talk very, very quickly about the ending? I was pretty proud of myself, okay? I made it through the entirety of this movie without shedding a tear. But then here comes like literally the last couple minutes of the movie, and I start bawling my eyes out because they show Lady Mary in the main hallway of Downton Abbey, and she starts reflecting and having memories, and you know there's that portrait of Violet behind her, and she starts remembering like moments that she had with Matthew in that hallway, and she starts seeing all the other characters, you know, that dance that they had there in the hall. And then, yeah, and then what really got me going was when they showed Sybil really quickly. I was like, oh my God. Seriously, I was so proud of myself that I did not cry this entire movie because, seriously, every season of Downton Abbey, I always cried, bawled my eyes out. So I was expecting to be a horrible mess by the time this movie ended, and I was doing really well, and then all of a sudden, like the last 2 minutes, I was bawling my eyes out. They had to ruin it by having all that emotional stuff literally right there at the very end. In conclusion, this was a fine end to this universe, if you will. It was nice to have a definitive conclusion to these characters. That being said, though, I'm curious if there might be like a Downton Abbey revival here in a couple years. And what I mean by that, I don't necessarily mean kind of going back to all of these characters, but like skipping to like World War II, for instance. I would love to see this show get revived at some point, but start with the beginning of World War II. You know how like you know how at the very, very end of season 1, it got right into World War I, you know? I would love to see this show like come back and start at the beginning of like World War II and focus on all of the kids and the teenagers. Because that, you know what, that was something that was a little frustrating for me watching this movie, because they showed Mary's son a couple random times. They showed Sibby a couple random times. They showed Edith's daughter a couple random times, and it's like the kids were just kind of there to remind you, oh yeah, they have kids, that's right. They didn't do anything. So I would love this show to come back and focus strictly on like George and Sibby, and you know, I can't remember what Edith's daughter's name is, but you know, focus on this whole brand new generation and follow them, because yeah, by the time World War II would start for these characters, they would already be like into their adult years, obviously, like young adults. So I would love for it to come back and focus on them and their experiences with World War II and the fate of Downton Abbey through the war and whatnot. Does anybody else like that idea? And of course, some of these other characters could obviously come back and make like little cameo appearances, but yeah, it wouldn't be about them, obviously. It would be about all this whole new next generation and the changes and plans that they have. So you guys, that is it for my thoughts and feelings on the grand finale of Downton Abbey. Let me know in the comments if you love this movie, or if you didn't like it so much. Are you sad to see Downton Abbey go? Would you like to see some sort of revival here in several years, you know, with a focus on like World War II now? Let me know. So yeah, that's it for this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye guys.